When I think about the Max Payne series, I think about three things. Dark, gritty, noir setting with a score to match. James McCaffrey's iconic, deep, sultry voice.
I had just gotten my 15 minutes of fame.
And this scene here. This will have heavy spoilers, but is more of a conversation about playing Max Payne 3 for the first time, rather than a full review. So, Max Payne 3 is an interesting one. I love the original two games. They introduced me to the dark, plaguing nature of grief and loneliness. They tackle some heavy themes that at a young age I probably wasn't prepared for. Yet, I fell in love with the series. The heavy atmosphere, the somber music that reverberated off the walls right before you obliterated some schmuck's face onto the pavement really set the tone for the series. I just never could find the time to play the third game, and a part of that was actual hesitation, which came from Rockstar. I'm not a big Rockstar guy myself. They've had some major impact on the industry with some of the biggest games ever made. And I've enjoyed other games more. I have my favorite Rockstar games, Red Dead Revolver, Vice City, but I think I was worried that they would pour too much of their Rockstar flavor in my beloved Max Payne drink. And I feel partly right. Thankfully, James McCaffrey reprises his role as Max, and my goodness, I think this might be one of his best performances. He goes all out here, consistently delivering memorable lines with grit and ferocity. He whimpers, he groans, he screams. He hits all the high notes here and blows his performance out of the water.
Hope was to chase them down. I knew they'd be leaving town, and my guess is they would try to fly out of here. Rich people love to fly away. God damn it!
He even hits these small details here when Max has an exasperated sigh with another "here we go again" inflection as he trudges through another hellscape he wasn't prepared for. It's consistently brought to life by McCaffrey's execution, and we couldn't have asked for more.
So this was it. My easy retirement money. My blood-stained 401k. A chance to drink for free while chaperoning socialites around town and making sure the poor people didn't get too close. The brochure sure didn't mention any of this shit.
Another thing that Max Payne 3 gets right is the combat. It's bombastic, the slow motion here is full force, and it just feels satisfying to use, just as it did 20 years ago. And of course, getting that last kill cam shot on a bad guy, slowing the bullet down to feel the impact of that 9mm entering their skull, all to make sure he gets his wings, feels great. Even the melee combat is satisfying. Breaking some dude's nose just to steal their gun and blast him feels awesome. The variety of levels here is crazy. An airport, the slums, a yacht. You visit so many places in Max Payne 3, it's hard to keep up. But they all look incredible. Visually, technically, some of them even have destructible environments. Aside from watching bullets fly by your head, glass, vases, papers, or even concrete are being eviscerated in real time. It makes combat all the more enjoyable and all the more intense. The bad guys here have some solid AI. They will flank you, they'll take cover, they'll yell to each other. They didn't feel copy and paste or too easy to where it feels like you're just mowing everybody down with a single gun. And speaking of guns, there's quite a variety and they're all fun to use, especially in slow motion. The core element of the Max Payne series, and of course my favorite was the shotgun. You just can't beat slow motion buckshot. The music and sound design were fantastic. The intense timpani drums of combat, or the pensive sadness of the cello as Max tries to drown out his regret. It all just sounds fantastic. So apart from all my praise so far, I do have some gripes with the game. And one of my biggest ones is the story. While I did enjoy it, it felt a little too long. And it's not a long game. It's only about 10 to 12 hours in length. Why, I think that's a pretty good length for a game. It felt like a movie that was about 45 minutes past its ending. As soon as I thought everything was wrapping up, I had 2 more chapters to play through. They were enjoyable, and they did tie up a few loose ends, but I was kind of beat by the end of it. They constantly jumped back and forth from the past to the present, but it felt like it didn't really even matter. Some of it didn't work for me. I think the pacing of the game would have benefited from a shorter runtime while cutting out some unnecessary backsteps. It felt to me as they were just put in the New York stuff just to appease fans instead of making it thread throughout the story. And I did not care for the Broncos. I think they should have set up more time with them in the beginning, maybe Fabiana or Giovanna playing around with Max a little bit, something to make me care a little bit more about them. I did like Giovanna eventually, and Passos is a bro, but they're not as memorable as Mona. My other small gripe with the game is the constant aberration effect. It got better as time went on throughout the game, but man, did it feel like a film student just learned how to throw a filter on their newly shot Oscar contender. I didn't mind it during Max's binges, but for every cutscene, it got a little stale. And man, there are a lot of cutscenes. This is one thing I wish they would have stuck to the originals a little bit more, so going for in-game dialogue instead of cutscenes, I think that also would have helped the pacing a little bit. And for my final nitpick here is Max Payne 3 is incredibly linear. Another thing I wish they would have called back to the old games for. You have so much freedom to explore in the classic games, which always felt a little bit more immersive to me. Overhearing NPCs' conversations or exploring dilapidated buildings in the bowels of New York hit more of that neo-noir feeling than Brazil ever did.
There's a supermodel on a catwalk until she's standing real close to me at the bar and she goes, "Your place or mine?" And I play it cool. I go, "Yours, baby."
When you play the flashback sequences, the game really nails the atmosphere of the dark, grisly New York streets. The wet rooftops and dry drinks fit the Max Payne vibes perfectly. It's too bad they're too short, and not the staple of what this game is going for. So for my final thoughts here, Max Payne 3 is a solid game with some incredible cinematics and terrific gunplay. The bullet time is so satisfying, and getting that final kill cam off a balcony or stair dive feels just so dang good every time. The story has a few pacing issues, but I did enjoy Max's descent into more chaos and his "I'm too old for this" demeanor, but of course that doesn't stop him from trying to make things right and do the right thing. James McCaffrey is such a standout, you couldn't have asked for a better performance here. The sound design and the music are top notch, and the graphics hold up incredibly well for a 13-year-old game. As a fan of the series, I did enjoy myself. Aside from my small nitpicks and frustrations from the game, I think it really is a solid experience. And, of course, Max himself here is obviously the major highlight, and he does give a nice send-off into the sunset, and it solidifies him as one of the greats. If anything, it does get me very excited for those Max Payne remakes. I'm Tay from Did I Save? Thanks for hanging out.